Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Wasteland Talks, my weekly talk show where I talk about whatever the hell I want. And this week, I have my very good friend Paige, who is a frequent collaborator here on my channel, to talk about one very sexy Danish man that
Woo!
definitely gets people's attention. That is Mads Mikkelsen. And Paige, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Speaking of Mads Mikkelsen, I do have this gay rights T-shirt that you got me on because I don't think he's gay, but as you said, he turns people gay, and we stand.
He certainly gets a lot of attention, and even in his projects. And I'm pretty sure the main reason you agreed to do this was specifically so we could talk about one show, and we'll get there. But basically, how
That,
we'll
that
do
is,
this
yeah, yeah.
is we're going to be talking about our top three Mads Mikkelsen films or performances specifically, not to specifically allude to anything. But Paige, you'll go first with your number three. I'll go with my number three and rotate back and forth until we get to the end. So, Paige,
Okay,
what's your number three?
all right. So I could not get your Amazon password to work last night, so I decided this is the angle I'm taking. I was gonna watch some of Mads Mikkelsen's English language performances because I knew you were watching some of the Danish ones. So I was like, this will thematically work out. So I'm going to say my number three performance for him is in Casino Royale. I can't pronounce the name. How is it? Lashif? Am I saying that
Yeah,
right?
it's like, I
Okay.
guess it depends on who you ask because I've heard it say Lashif and Lashifra, but
Right.
also,
So,
this is also my number three, so this is fun. So,
oh no, sorry. We should have talked about this.
no, that's okay. We can
But it works
have
out.
the same opinion page.
No, we can't. We have to fight for the sake of, I don't know, comedy, entertainment.
Go ahead,
Um,
Paige. What are your thoughts on Casino Royale then?
okay. My thoughts on the film is that it's way too fucking long. My thoughts on Mads Mikkelsen's performance, in general, obviously it was actually kind of weird to see because that movie came out in what, 2006.
2006. Yep.
Yeah, he looks young as hell. Like,
Mhm.
and I feel like Mads Mikkelsen is one of those people who like should have been born as like a 48-year-old man. Like, he looks weird. Like, as a younger person, like, I don't like it. He looks too smooth. Like, he looks even more alien than he does now. Um, but that's not his fault. Um, but yeah, I don't think that character has a ton of depth to it. I don't think it's supposed to. Like, he's a James Bond villain, and a big reason I don't like James Bond films, sorry Shane, is because they favor style over substance, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Sorry.
the vast majority of them care more about let's make some action and that's it.
Yeah.
And to be frank, like more than half of them suck. Like they're not good
Oh,
movies.
okay. Well, you're such a Bond stan. I was like, oh god, this is gonna be a hot take, but I guess it's not.
If you're a real Bond fan, you acknowledge the fact that like more than half of the movies are bad movies, and you just watch them since you're a kid and you still watch them. Because if I watched
Okay.
something like View to a Kill as an adult for the first time, I'd be like, "What shit is this?"
So there's
So,
the nostalgia factor for your love of James Bond movies,
100%.
So, yeah. No,
But
no shade, no shade.
well, it's interesting because Casino Royale was a big deal because it was like the hard reboot of James Bond because
Mm-hmm.
in a world with like Batman Begins, everyone's
Yeah.
like we need a hard serious reboot of,
He needs to be hard.
especially especially after things like specifically Die Another Day, which was the last James
Mm-hmm.
Bond before this, which was so dumb. This was very streamlined, stripped back. Everybody was pissed off because Bond was blonde. Because you know what?
Oh, because
Well
he'd
before,
never been here.
well before Star Wars fans and Marvel fans and DC fans became toxic fandoms, you had James Bond fans who got pissed off if James Bond was blonde. Daniel Craig is great.
Who cares? That's so stupid. I'm sorry.
They freaked out because they got Pierce Brosnan originally because he's Irish. So
okay, people, if you freak out over movie casting like that, you need a life, a hobby, some sedatives.
This is their hobby. The point is, Daniel Craig is a much more intense Bond in this, and they went in a different direction with the villain because, like, this isn't a big megalomaniacal, like, I'm gonna flood the world. It's a guy who bankrolls criminal organizations, and he owes up people a lot of money, so he wants to win it back in a game of, poker, right? So, and I think Mads Mikkelsen is one of the most vulnerable James Bond villains because you never see a Bond villain sweat like you see him in that scene where they're like wherever that one group was from, and they're like threatening and torturing him in his room. It's like you don't see that, and you really need a strong actor to sell that, and he does. But honestly, I think what puts this on my list is 100% that scene between him and Daniel Craig at the end of the film, because you need two great actors. You need two great actors to make that work. Otherwise, that just comes off as just like, when he's just swinging that giant knot and smacking Bond in the balls, and Daniel Craig's like crying, sobbing, telling him to scratch his itch more to the left. I'm just like, this is great. And you could see on Mads Mikkelsen's face, there's like a sense of like he appreciates the game that Bond is playing here, because there's like little smirks on his face, but he's definitely getting into it. And
I wonder, okay, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I liked that scene not only because it was like kind of hilarious, but also I feel like it's also kind of a commentary on Bond's like hyper masculinity. Like it's almost maybe like a parody of it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like hyper masculinity so often kind of circles back around to homoeroticism. And I just felt like this was I feel like it was like almost farcical. It was just like, he's hitting him in the nuts like a form of torture, and like they're both all sweaty, and like I don't know, I was like, this is a little gay.
This doesn't happen in Bond movies. He should be strapped to a tablet with a laser coming and trying to slice him in half.
Yeah, it's a very weird choice, and that's the only explanation I can come up with, is that it's some sort of like commentary.
Well, I think it's funny because they make a similar kind of allusion to that in Skyfall too. Because when they introduce Javier Bardem's character, and he has Bond, strapped to a chair, and he starts like running his hands up Bond's legs, and Bond makes like a cheeky comment back to him, and Javier Bardem's like, "Ooh, Mr. Bond." Just like I feel like they're aware at this point that they're playing with that, and honestly, I think Mads Mikkelsen, because like, I'm pretty sure this was one of his first big American roles too.
I definitely think it was his first big English-speaking role. Yeah,
because this was before popped up in Clash of the Titans. Because I remember him being in that. I'm just like, why did they keep making Sam Worthington a thing? And he continues to be an Avatar. Clash of the Titans. He was in Doctor Strange, and he plays villains. That's what he does, and or tough guy, antagonistic characters. But like, I do think he is by far one of the most interesting Bond villains because he's so different. And I think Mads
Yeah.
Mikkelsen gives a really good performance.
Yeah, no, as someone who hasn't really seen many Bond films, that never even occurred to me. But yeah, you're right. Like most Bond villains are megalomaniacal in scale, I guess. They're trying to flood the world and stuff. And Mads Mikkelsen's just like, I need $100 million so I don't get killed by these terrorists. Like, it's not very glamorous, honestly.
No, and the whole entire scene where they're playing is incredible. And, you have to put on an act to play. And
Yeah.
they were putting on a great act with trying to, like, trying to hide the tells, fake each other out. It was a disturbing little detail of him, like, bleeding from his eyes. Like, that was just creepy.
Is that a real thing, by the way? He's like, oh, I have a burst blood vessel or something. I'm like, that sounds like something they made up for a cool villain quirk.
Hey, there's a James Bond villain who's a Hitler clone played by Christopher Walken.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
So,
it's fine.
Who's like, ha ha! Like the whole entire movie. Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh, Max Zorin. That was legitimately arguably the worst James Bond movie is V to a Kill. The only thing great about it is the Duran Duran theme song, which is amazing. But
we're getting off topic here. This is a Mads Mikkelsen ep. It is not James Bond.
Yes, and now, Paige, what is your number 2? Because that was both our number 3.
Yeah, no, that's in so my number 2 is his performance as Grindelwald in the Fantastic Beasts. Well, the most recent Fantastic Beasts movie.
Secrets of Dumbledore.
Yes. And again, referencing gay rights here, like you're sensing a theme, perhaps, dear viewers. Yeah, I have so many feelings about this. As someone who was a huge Harry Potter fan as a kid, as most white women were, he should have been there from the beginning. Like, I think Colin Farrell did a good job, but like, why the fuck did they cast Johnny Depp? Like, I don't even even just regarding all of the domestic violence and lawsuit stuff. Like I just don't think he was right for the part. Like visually, I was picturing someone more like Mads Mikkelsen, like someone Nordic, like Johnny Depp is very like trashy American looking, which is fine. It's just like,
and then they gave him whatever the hell he was supposed to look like.
Yeah, like I don't know. It was a really bizarre casting choice. Like just Johnny Depp, like just in isolation. So I thought Mads Mikkelsen was much better. And yeah, I mean, the way he played the character definitely reminded me a lot of Hannibal. I don't know. I felt like maybe he was phoning it in a little, or like not phoning it in, but really like not maybe giving it his most dramatic effort.
They didn't give him a whole lot to work with.
Oh yeah, no, those movies are trash. Honestly, like I don't really like them.
I feel like outside of that first scene with him and Jude Law, they don't really give him a whole lot to do in the movie. So
yeah, he just kind of like looms occasionally. I mean, in the last scene where he's like, "Who's gonna love you now?" I was like, "Oh."
Well, that's basically it. They bookended this movie with the two of them, and then you're just like, why didn't we get more of the two of them?
Yeah,
because these movies have no idea what the hell they want to be. But that's a whole other conversation.
For real.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I feel like I don't even know why they made these movies besides money. So I guess that's why. But like, I feel like I feel like the dynamic between Dumbledore and Grindelwald is one of the only elements that's like really in the original Harry Potter books with any sort of detail. And it's like, why couldn't we explore that? Like, that is the only genuinely interesting thing I feel like that could have happened.
I don't know if it was a retcon or like, well, it couldn't have been because they set up Grindelwald in the first one too. I just felt like they're like, well, we're going to make Fantastic Beasts. But how can we stretch this for like 5 movies? Well, let's
Yeah.
make it about Dumbledore and Grindelwald. But it winds up not being about either of them. Because like you
Yeah,
don't get
it
enough
winds up.
Fantastic Beasts, and then you don't get enough of them. So then what the hell's the point?
You're so right.
I
That
feel
you
like
encapsulated that.
I feel like there's one moment that I loved with Mads Mikkelsen in that movie, and it's when they're trying to drive up to the Berlin Ministry of Magic, and they're gonna do like the him being presented as like a nominee or whatever, and they're in the car, and he gets out of the car, and how people just swarm him. The look on Mads Mikkelsen's face in that moment is the most self-reassuring, smuggest, just like delightful face that he was doing. And I'm like, those are the little those I feel like that's why you cast him, are the little things. Because like we'll talk about it soon, but like there's been what, 4 Hannibal Lecters, I think. Anthony Hopkins is obviously like big
Yeah.
choices and stuff like that, but like
There was Brian Cox, right?
And then Hannibal Rising.
Oh, and Gabriel, what the fuck was his name?
I've never seen that one, so
yeah,
it's his subtlety as an actor. Because, and I'll talk about kind of segueing into my second one, is The Hunt, which
wait, I wasn't. I had another thought though.
I will take one step back and let you go.
Yeah, no, I had a thought, but it, no, oh yeah, no, I was gonna say like I totally agree with you about the subtlety thing, and I feel like it's so. I feel like sometimes you don't appreciate like how skilled of an actor Mads Mikkelsen is, or people don't in general. Like we do, but people don't in general because he is so subtle, and I feel like it takes so much skill to be compelling while not also like making a scene like I don't know, like Al Pacino would or something. Like I don't know, he's very. It's insane how expressive he can be with just like a couple movements or like an eyebrow twitch or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just very impressive. But yeah.
Well, I think it's also interesting because like you brought up Johnny Depp, and like I get why they had Colin Farrell in the first one, because like he was never supposed to be like the permanent Grindelwald.
Yeah, he was like in disguise. Yeah.
But you pick Johnny Depp generally in these kinds of things because he makes huge choices. He's over the top, he's quirky, he's weird. But then you watch Crimes of Grindelwald, and he's not. Like he is, like despite his look, which is right out of a Johnny Depp performance you expect,
yeah,
he was subtle and didn't make a whole lot of big choices. And I think a lot of people were disappointed because like, where was Johnny Depp? Mm-hmm. But the thing is, it's like, if that's what your intention was of the character all along, I don't get why you would cast Johnny Depp, besides that he's a huge name. Because like obviously he sells more than Mads Mikkelsen. But to be frank, they're not trying to sell this franchise on the actors in it. It's Harry Potter. That's what they're trying to sell it on. So I think it worked out in the end. And I don't know if we're going to get the 4th and 5th film that they intended on having or not, because it didn't make a whole lot of money. And Warner Brothers is cleaning up shop right now. They canceled so many things and projects, and are burning a lot of bridges with new management, because they just got bought by Discovery away from AT&T, and their new boss in charge, like I think, canceled more than like 3/4 of CW shows. They're just like, this crap has gone on too long. Goodbye.
Wow, that's okay. That takes. I feel like CW shows, it takes a lot for them to get canceled. They're all like not very good, and they go on for like 20 years. Looking at you, Supernatural. Even though I love you.
But hope Ethan's not listening. His heart would be breaking right now. But I feel like they should have just went in this direction to begin with, to be honest. And if I'm leaning towards, I don't think we're gonna see more Mads Mikkelsen in this franchise, because I don't know if we're gonna see more of this franchise, to be perfectly frank. And
Yeah.
I think they ended the third film with enough of an ending where it's just like they could finish it and just let it die.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
eventually just remake Harry Potter as an HBO Max series at some point, because that's 100% gonna happen.
No, I can't. You know how I fucking feel about all these remakes. My soul is leaving my body. I'm just, I'm weary.
I just
I
feel like
hate
the
it.
only positive about that would be it's a series and they could legitimately have like 10 episodes and not cut a bunch of stuff out of the books. But
That's
then
true.
that's the only positive I can see, because it's like, why? Money. That's why. Um, they need great Game of Thrones back, so they'll do
I know.
whatever, including making spin-offs and prequels and crap like that. But
Yeah.
so shifting gears a bit into the roles that made Mads Mikkelsen famous, and his collaborations with Thomas Vinterberg are really impressive. And my number two is The Hunt, where he works at a school, and because something happens, the whole community turns against him and thinks he's some kind of pervert and disgusting human being, and basically becomes a witch hunt of him. And this definitely shows him being his most very human and very naturalistic as an actor, because there aren't a whole ton of moments of him like big broad acting kind of thing. It is a very emotional and very intimate performance. He is a frustrated man whose whole entire life is crumbling in on him, and he's so believable in it. And I remember watching this for the first time being like, this is interesting, because what I was used to was Casino Royale and Clash of the Titans. And like I hadn't seen performances like this from him before, and now realizing like this is some of his best work is in his
range.
Well, yeah, and it's very moving and very personal, and you can feel it. And the film in general says so much about humanity and what we'll run away with, what we can be convinced of, and all kinds of stuff like that. And he's just such a great anchor in that film. And if you haven't seen The Hunt, for those watching,
I was trying to watch it. That's why I tried to mooch off your Amazon last night.
I'll tell you later why. I think Amazon's one of my ones that I have a different password for.
Oh, I didn't want to bother you, so
you
I was
should have
like,
just texted me.
I'm taking the American side, and Shane can deal with the European side.
Because like he's been putting out a lot of great performances in the past couple years, and I'll get to one that I think garnered his most attention. But like I think this is a really moving film, and it's the kind of thing where it's like this is the kind of acting that you see in a lot of European films and less American, because I think the American expectation most of the time is bigger is better. And that's why we have the Pacinos and the De Niros, who are some of our legends, and yelling at people.
Yeah. But I definitely think it's like, I don't know, like I feel like as Americans, some people find that natural, and I'm guilty of this too sometimes. Like we were watching the dumb French movie where they'd sex every 10 seconds. I forget what it was about or what it was called.
French movie.
Yeah, you're right. I know that's not like helpful at all. It's not narrowing it down. But no, like as you said, Americans love the bombastic, ham, scenery chewing acting, but also like I also think sometimes they find it boring, like that, as you said, that more like naturalistic, subtle style acting. Like, I mean, maybe it's not just Americans who think that, but that's why I feel like Mads Mikkelsen's so underappreciated, is because like it's not his acting's not compelling in the same way that like a more attention seeking or loud actors is. So
Well, and
I have a chip on my shoulder about this. Okay, I love Mads Mikkelsen.
Your number one is a good opportunity to talk about this specifically because this is not the first person to play this role, and there's one that's considerably more famous, but also considerably more showy. But I'll let you get to it.
Oh, are we okay? We're done talking about the hunt.
Unless you have more things to say about it.
No, I didn't. I didn't see it. Yeah, but
I wanted to stay.
I will watch it eventually.
I wanted to stay more vague because it's most likely a film that most people haven't seen. I feel like a lot of people have at least heard all the BS about Crimes of Grindelwald and Secrets of Dumbledore. A lot of people have seen Casino Royale before, so
sure.
And what you're about to talk about, I don't think enough people have seen.
Oh my God. Okay. So like I'm bringing the same energy as I brought to like our Phantom of the Opera episode. Like intense, borderline weird, not borderline, weird love. For not technically film, but the TV show Hannibal, a modern masterpiece, beloved by Tumblr fangirls everywhere in the year of our Lord 2012. Yeah, I'm obsessed with that show. I think it's like I don't even like who let that happen. Like I'm shocked that it ever got on air. Like what Brian Fuller show ever got more than like a season before Hannibal, right?
It was because like I've watched the first season so far. So it has 3 seasons, right?
Yeah, it does.
So I have a couple more to get around to, but like just seeing it is a whole other kind of experience if you've seen Silence of the Lambs or Hannibal or like Red Dragon or Manhunter. It's a very different kind of Hannibal, and it's like something about it very Mads Mikkelsen about it.
I know, I'm like, did Brian Fuller just like write this show for Mads Mikkelsen? Like, was this just an excuse to like have Mads Mikkelsen around? Yeah, like I can't believe I'm saying this because I've been a huge fan of like the whole Hannibal Lecter series since I was like 11, and I got in trouble in 7th grade English class for reading Silence of the Lambs during free period. And the teacher called my mom, and my mom was like, I gave her that book. She's allowed to read it. I wasn't allowed to read it in school anymore. But like I've always found that character so compelling. And it's not just because his name rhymes with cannibal and he is a cannibal. It's not just that. Because I just, I'm a social worker. Like my profession is like therapy, and I just love the fact that he's just like this insane cannibal serial killer, but like he doesn't have antisocial personality disorder. He doesn't meet the diagnostic criteria as far as I'm aware for anything in the DSM. And like that's just my favorite. Like he's unquantifiable. I love it. Like, and I read an interview with Brian Fuller. I'm like totally just rambling about this. Sorry, but you're just gonna have to deal. I read an interview with Brian Fuller, and he said that when he was trying to cast Hannibal, he wanted someone who reminded him of like Satan. He's like, how would Satan act if he was walking around in real life? Like he, I don't think he would act like the devil with the red horns, like Tim Curry in
Legends.
In Legend, yeah. Like he would just be like this withdrawn, like so above it all, charming, manipulative. You don't realize what a monster he is until he's literally about to kill you. And I was like, yeah, like Mads Mikkelsen is Satan, and that's it.
Well, and it's trying to sell that idea of he's tempter. He's like somebody tempting people, not like it's not like a big scary kind of beast. It's somebody who's trying to tempt people into darkness. It's trying to tempt people into doing things they shouldn't. And it is a very different take than even like some of the other big representations of the devil and Satan. Because, like,
Mm-hmm.
speaking of big choices, you know, you have the devil's advocate.
Yeah,
Al Pacino is just straight
literally
up
Al Pacino.
screaming, "I'm a fan man," and just a whole other kind of thing. But like,
Yeah.
there's something tantalizing about Mads Mikkelsen in this show because it's like there's a refinedness, there's a charisma about him,
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciate you saying like somebody who seems like he's above it all because he
Mm-hmm.
very rarely brings himself down to other people. He finds
Yeah.
respect in others who rise up to him. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just the whole entire interesting dynamic that he has with oh crap, what the hell's the character's
Will
name?
Graham
Will
is
Graham.
the character.
Uh, not Edward Norton in this one.
Not no, it's the lovely, delicate Hugh Dancy.
Yep. Or Grissom from CSI who played him in Manhunter. But
Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh, I don't. I hated Manhunter. That was just so like. I did not jive with that at all.
it's a very Michael Mann kind of movie.
Yeah.
But the show just has it's something eerie and grotesque about it underneath
Mm-hmm.
at all times, but
Yeah.
it looks so refined on the surface.
Yeah.
And that really comes from Mads Mikkelsen's energy
I
because,
agree.
you know, like obviously Silence of the Lambs is like the peak Hannibal story for many people. And
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor for literally acting for 16 minutes,
I
which
thought it was 12 minutes.
something like he's still
Yeah, but
not
it
a
was like
lead.
ridiculously short.
He's a supporting character, and
Yeah.
they just gave him Best Actor because category fraud. But like Anthony Hopkins is like you could tell, like he's going for it's like good morning.
Yeah.
And I ate his liver with fava beans and nice Chianti. And it
Like it's a
just,
meme. Like it's literally a meme.
yeah. And like he's going for it, and you can
Yeah.
tell. But like Mads Mikkelsen doesn't have to. It just feels like it's just flowing off him. And which is
Yeah.
why I feel like if you're going to redo a character, a role, do something different with it. Because we don't need another Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal in that show. You
Yeah.
need Mads Mikkelsen doing his Hannibal in it. And I feel like that's what people get wrong a lot when they're trying to remake or redo something is just trying to copy the last one. That's not interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
but
And no one
it's
can beat like Anthony Hopkins, like it's iconic. Like you can't beat it. Like
no,
you can't improve it. You just need to do something else. Like
exactly. And some people have learned that, you know, that's why the Joker's different every time we see a new Joker. You
with
know,
varying degrees of success.
correct. Just because it's different doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Jared Leto. But like, you know, Jack Nicholson, everybody was like, that's the Joker. But then
Yeah.
Heath Ledger did something completely different. And that movie called for a different performance. If you did like Jack Nicholson being like, what kind of crazy world we live in where a man in a bat suit steals my press, like in the middle of the Dark Knight, that
Yeah.
wouldn't work.
It would be so incongruent. Yeah.
And
No,
like, I don't know, like, it's hard for me to imagine the dynamic that they create between Will and Hannibal in this show with the Anthony Hopkins version of this
yeah.
character because I just feel like there's some great chemistry between those two actors in this
Woo!
show. And obviously, as you
so
pointed out, this was the spawn of so many things on like Tumblr and social media.
Oh yeah.
Just
It's crazy. Like their chemistry is so insane. And I'm not even saying in like I do think romantically, like, and sexually, there's definitely a lot of tension there, but I'm not even talking just about that. I just feel like I've never part of what fascinates me so much about this show is that like I've just never seen two characters who I feel like are just so like obsessed with each other and like fascinated with each other, and it goes way beyond like the romantic and sexual. Like it's just almost like this surreal level of like I just want to like pick you apart physically and spiritually and emotionally. Like it's so
and
it's just one of
intellectually.
those, and intellectually, yeah, it's the dynamic is just so intense and like you can't look away, but it's very subtle. Like it's never hammy, I don't think. Like sometimes it could be silly, but it's never, I don't know, you just can't look away.
From the first season that I watched, I feel like anything that feels a little campy would be from the tone of the show and not really them specifically.
Yeah.
Because like I watched the first season, I feel like it does at some points have like a bit like not quite like another show that we both watch, Evil, which definitely has it's like winking at the camera moments like, yeah,
Oh my
we get it.
God.
This is ridiculous.
Evil's the worst show. Hannibal's the best show. They're don't mention Hannibal and Evil in the same sentence, man.
Well, to be fair, I do think that they're trying to hit on the same kind of viewer in terms of like
clearly.
There you go.
Because I'm obsessed with that show too.
They take very different approaches to it. But I guess, Paige, what other thoughts do you have about Hannibal that you want to share?
I mean, yeah, I could write dissertations on Hannibal, but I just think like I just love that show. I think it's just one of the most unique things out there. It's so compelling. Like, what other show is there where like every frame is a painting, but then also they say stupid shit like Hannibal's in jail and he's like, "Oh, Will, are you gonna do a mic drop?" in his weird Danish monotone accent. It's like, where else can you get both of those things?
Yeah,
but,
well, and other shows have tried to capture that like serial killer story because like everybody of any millennial age just loves true crime crap.
Yeah.
And loves murder. And like
that could be a whole nother like psychological discussion. Like, why is our generation so obsessed with true crime?
I don't know. Netflix is like, sure, I'll throw it all at you. But even like they did that show Clarice that came out last year. Dud. Just
yeah, I heard nothing about that. Like I was going to watch it and then I just never heard anything about it.
So I actually explained this to Jess, I think. So like I watch a lot of shows. Like every day I probably have a show that I'm watching and keep up with. And some of those shows I'm like, I can't wait for this day because this is coming out like today. Jess and I watched Tuca and Birdie right when I got home. And I'm like,
oh, cool. Yeah.
So excited to watch it. And What We Do in the Shadows and Wellington Paranormal. I'm excited for those. And then there's shows where I'm just like, God.
Yeah.
It's that day. I guess I got to sit and watch this for 45 to an hour. And they're the worst ones too. If they're like an hour-long show and you're just like,
why do you do it then? You don't have you're not forced to review things, Shane. This is just for fun. You don't have to watch it. But I bet you feel compelled to.
Sometimes I feel like, and that's honestly like, I'm thinking about like, do I really want to try to watch and review every show like I do with movies? Because it's just overwhelming. But, I do enjoy It's Sunday. Some of the shows that come on Sunday, I'm like, but then I do get excited to watch a new episode of Evil because I have a lot of fun with it.
We should do a whole episode about Evil because that, oh my God, I don't know.
Paige will be back at the end of when season 3 wraps up. We'll do a discussion about season 3 Evil right here on Wasteland Talks. If Paige wants to.
Can my sister come?
Sure.
Can we do a panel discussion?
Sure. But I guess at this point, so you're like, honestly, you wanting to talk about Hannibal kind of spurred this whole entire episode.
I know that's what we were just sitting around and
I'm like, you want to do it? And honestly, why I was compelled to do this episode is my number one too, which is a film that I wish everybody would go watch, which is Another Round. And this
I've
is
never heard of that.
so this won Best International Film last year at the Oscars. And Thomas Vinterberg was nominated for Best Director. Mads Mikkelsen 100% should have been nominated for Best Actor, but it was the same Oscars as, Riz Ahmed could have won Best Actor at any other Oscars, but then it came down to Chadwick Boseman and Anthony Hopkins. And we all know how that turned out. Awkward. But Another Round is about four middle-aged men who they're at dinner together and come up with the ideas like, what if you lived your whole entire life buzzed? Like you just had enough alcohol in your system to be buzzed but not drunk. And you would think that this sounds like a stupid, raunchy American comedy, except this is a serious Danish film with compelling performances, and it is funny. But it has its humor about it, but they deal with some serious shit because some of them get carried away with it. Some of them, it ruins their lives. But everybody's performances are so compelling, and Mads Mikkelsen gives such a great performance dealing with his own drama in his own household, him dealing with his friends, and they're like teachers at a school. So what
the fuck is wrong with them? Why would they do this?
Because they were thinking maybe it can improve our lives. Because
he's depressed, probably.
But this movie has one of the most cathartic endings to any movie ever. Legitimately.
What
Mads Mikkelsen does in the last scene of this movie is genius. And no, it's a lot more uplifting and fun and interesting than that. I don't want to give it away, but there's a chance a lot of you have probably seen the last scene before you even knew what the hell this movie was. But Mads Mikkelsen goes ham at the end of this movie, and it's one of the most delightful and amazing things I watched in all of film that year. I'm just I did not expect this movie to end this way, but this is the most amazing way for this movie to end. And it's very physical. Okay. Because the thing is, you don't really see a whole lot of big physicality from Mads Mikkelsen. His general acting, it's a lot more subtle.
He's very self-contained, and I feel like he likes to brings people to him. He doesn't go towards them.
Oh, well, he lets it all out.
What?
And it's exciting. It's a lot of fun. I think the last time I checked, this was on Hulu. I don't know if it's still on Hulu or not, but if you haven't seen Another Round, check it out because there's a lot of drama to be had, great performances, funny. You can only imagine four teachers at a school. One of them's a gym teacher.
The gym teachers.
And it's an interesting film, and one of the most that year 2020 was such an unexpected year for movies because my top 5 was I had Another Round in there. I had Wolf Walkers, which is an Irish animated film. I even had Shaun the Sheep Farmageddon up there because honestly, Shaun the Sheep movies are incredible. They're on Paddington level of just beautiful cinema, which Paddington 2 is one of the greatest films of all time, according to the internet.
Okay. All right. Hey, nothing wrong with Paddington.
He's Paddington's amazing. That would be a fun movie night. I'd definitely be down for watching Paddington and Paddington 2.
I literally watch anything you put on the screen. When have I ever been
oh, no? God, we did literally watch anything on the screen the last time you came over for
Yeah,
movie marathon day.
that was the first time I ever was like, maybe Shane has horrible taste in movies. The first and last time I ever questioned your.
No, like that
I'm
was.
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I will
chose
watch
the worst movie.
anything.
No,
I will literally watch anything. It just, will I enjoy it? Probably not. But you will enjoy another round, so you should all check that out.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I definitely want that.
Honestly, there's a lot of things you should check out that we talked about today. Check
Like
out
Hannibal.
Hannibal, yes, obviously. Don't know if it's worth your time getting invested in Fantastic Beasts. Probably not. So,
Yeah.
but if you are going to watch a James Bond movie, Casino Royale is a good one.
Yeah. I think you could watch The Secrets of Dumbledore how I watched it, which is like I was journaling, I was like doing laundry, I was playing The Sims, and then sort of half watching it.
They're all going to be on HBO Max at some point because, you know, it's a Warner Brothers thing. So, like,
Yeah.
it's already the best streaming service. You probably already have it or know somebody who has it, so you could always just watch it.
Yeah.
Shameless plug for HBO Max because it's that much better than Netflix.
Yeah, I like HBO Max. I think we pay for it. I don't know.
It's worth it.
I don't mooch off of yours.
Fair.
So that's
Paige. Thank you for a spirited discussion about Mads Mikkelsen.
I feel like we didn't talk about. I mean, I feel like this really encapsulates who Mads Mikkelsen is. Like, I don't think we talked about him completely the whole episode. He's just a good springboard for lots of other things because he's so complicated, so mysterious. He generates discussion. He turns people gay. You know, it's amazing.
He is a true enemy of America, apparently. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's true. I've heard in real life he's just like a very like nice, like vaguely hippie-ish sort of dude, which is so weird to think about.
Well, it's funny because I sent you that video, right?
Yeah, like a TikTok you sent us. I was like, yeah, like this is Hannibal. Why is he like talking to a child? Like, what? Stop.
Oh, when that child asked him, would you rather eat pizza or a person? And he's like, pizza, but could I have a person on it? I'm just like,
we stand a thrifty king. Well, I guess People Meat's probably not cheap, actually. Well, I mean, it's cheap if you like. It's illegal,
you get it yourself.
But it's free. Yeah. So yes, we love a thrifty king. I retain my earlier sentence.
Hannibal Lecter, indeed a thrifty king.
Thrifty king.
Just have an old friend for dinner. Yeah, I went there. But Paige, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's always so much fun. It's a fun activity for me.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.